So, why do brilliant business plans so often just fail? Welcome back to The Explainer. It's the kind of question that literally keeps executives and entrepreneurs up at night. You can have the absolute smartest people in the room, the most robust data, and this beautifully bound document outlining the entire future of your company, and yet, 6 months later, absolutely nothing has changed. Well, today we're going to unpack exactly why that happens. Today, we're decoding strategic management, taking it all the way from theory to execution. We're going to take what honestly can sometimes be a pretty dense academic concept and translate it into a highly practical, actionable toolkit. The goal here is to demystify what separates the organizations that merely plan from the ones that actually achieve their wildest goals. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start by defining strategic management, outline the actual framework, look at a really cool real-world case study with Walmart, and finally, go over how to avoid those classic implementation pitfalls. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, Defining Strategic Management, the core concept. So looking at the sources, they all pretty much agree that strategic management isn't just about day-to-day survival. It's a very specific set of managerial decisions and actions designed to determine the long-term performance of an organization. We're talking about a continuous process of formulating, implementing, and evaluating decisions across different departments. The ultimate goal? Creating a true competitive advantage. And more importantly, sustaining it by bridging the gap between where you are today and where you desperately need to be tomorrow. Okay, let's dive into Section 2, the Strategic Management Framework, and how we actually build this process out. And this brilliantly illustrates what that architecture looks like. It's broken down into these really distinct rational blocks. You see, you can't just jump straight into doing things. You have to follow a methodical approach. And if you notice how that feedback loop operates, strategic management is never just a straight line. It's a continuous, dynamic cycle where new information is constantly informing your next move. Basically, it builds across 3 major phases. Phase 1 is strategy formulation. This is your planning phase, establishing your vision, your mission, your big objectives. Phase 2 is strategy implementation. This is the heavy lifting, where you allocate budgets, mobilize your resources, and actually execute the programs. And finally, Phase 3 is evaluation and control, where you monitor your progress and make those vital course corrections. To actually succeed, you need all 3 of these firing on all cylinders. Now, what's really interesting here is that to even start formulating a winning strategy, you have to do what's called environmental scanning. Think of it like standing in the middle of a room. First, you've got to look out the windows at everything going on outside, and then you have to turn around and take a hard look at everything going on inside. Let's unpack that a bit. Strategy is essentially the bridge between 2 entirely different worlds. On one side, you've got the external environment, things like the economy, emerging tech, political shifts, the climate. These are the cards you're dealt, right? You literally cannot control them. But on the flip side, you have your internal environment, your company culture, your human resources, your structure. These are the cards you actually get to play. A brilliant strategy perfectly aligns those internal capabilities to meet the demands of that wild, uncontrollable external world. Which brings us nicely to Section 3, Real-World Strategy. We're going to look at Walmart and see some serious agility in action. So take yourselves back to January 2020 when the pandemic first hit the US. Talk about the external environment shifting overnight, right? Total unpredictability. Well, Walmart was actually one of the very first major retailers to react strategically. They immediately locked down their internal environment by jumping on CDC guidelines to protect their associates and their customers. But here's the thing, they didn't just play defense, they went on the offensive. They proactively beefed up their massive supply chain because they knew an absolutely unprecedented surge in consumer demand for essentials was about to hit. And the payoff for that incredibly agile pivot? 460%. According to the mobile data site app Annie, average daily downloads for the Walmart grocery app spiked by a staggering 460% in April 2020 compared to just 3 months prior. On top of that, their comparable US sales jumped 6%, and operating income shot up over 26%. Guys, that wasn't luck. That was strategic management executed flawlessly under extreme pressure. All right, moving on to our reality check-in, Section 4, Avoiding Implementation Pitfalls, or basically why so many strategies just crash and burn. Our source material provides this absolutely brilliant analogy. A strategic plan doesn't ensure that the desired outcome is achieved any more than having a map ensures a person reaches the intended location. I mean, hit the nail on the head, right? We've all seen beautiful, highly detailed strategic maps that just end up gathering dust in a desk drawer. You can have the best map in the world, but if you don't put gas in the car, turn the key, and start driving, you are going nowhere. The implementation, that's the driving. So, why does the car break down? Well, the absolute most frequent killer of strategy is a lack of ownership. Because if everybody assumes someone else is handling it, guess what? Nobody is. Add in poor communication, where your team doesn't even know the route, getting suffocated by daily operations, or simply having zero metrics for accountability, and yeah, your strategy is completely doomed. To avoid falling into those traps, our sources highlight 5 absolutely crucial load-bearing pillars that have to align to activate your plan. You need people with the right skills. You need the resources and budget to actually fuel the journey. You need a structure with clear ownership. You need internal systems to support the work. And, maybe most importantly, a culture dedicated to these new goals. If even just one of these pillars cracks, the whole shebang collapses under its own weight. Which leaves me with a final thought for you to chew on today. Look at your own organization and ask yourself, is your strategy just a plan sitting on a shelf, or is it truly in motion? Just remember, drawing up the map is only step 1. The real magic, the actual competitive advantage, comes entirely down to how well you drive. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hopefully this helps you turn your next big idea into a brilliant execution.